what was the process like, considering, it's you and three other people coming together to create something? Like, what made y'all drop this, and like, what was the creative process like?
Yeah. Well, this particular recording was with me and Billy Martin and John Medeski and Jason Fraticelli. And Jason's like a friend of mine from college. And I've known him for a long time. And um, John and Billy are musicians that I listened to growing up. And um, just always loved their artistic integrity. And um, it was like always kind of like on my dream list to record with them and to play with them. Um, I always appreciated where they were coming from artistically, and um, so yeah, it just kind of as far as the process, I wrote um, like 20 song ideas like on paper, um, and I brought them into the studio, but those guys are kind of like well known for their ability to make magic happen in the moment. And um, a lot of the reason why I wanted to do it was to kind of absorb through osmosis what they do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so um, when we got in the studio, I had the stack of papers of songs I wrote, but um, I went in with like an open mind, and um, especially Billy was kind of like, well, you're here, let's do what me and John do really well, which is improvise. And so we kind of did like a mix of like songs and improvisation. And the little album that just came out is just like the first note we made, which is just like an improv. So there was no rehearsal, there was no preconceived notions, there was no music written. It was just off the cuff, the very first notes we played when we met. Um, so it was really special. And not only was it really special, the music I just released, the artwork is by like one of my dearest friends, Burgundy, who I love. And it's called Meeting of the Minds, which is kind of like that's the name of her art piece as it is. But there's a lot more music from that recording session still to come.
I love that. You said that you originally had like a plan and you're like, you know what, let's improvise. I feel like that is even the structure of how I have interviewed in the past, or even like what I want to do in the future. Like, I'll have set questions. I'm like, you know what, I sort of want to make it flow like a conversation, because I feel like that's where you're gonna get the best information, instead of like, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that, I want to talk like, I feel like it's more beautiful for it to come out that way. And I read about the fact that you that the artwork was like, I read about the artwork, and I thought the fact that the artwork is a real representation of sort of what happened is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you said osmosis, like the transfer of things within an environment, is cool, because to me, I'm like a 90s late baby. So when I think of like the fact that y'all recorded in Woodstock, New York, I automatically think like hippie, like locate, like I think history of like, oh, that's where the festivals were, that's where they like were doing some groovy stuff. So to me, the fact that y'all recorded in Woodstock, New York, sort of like manifested the idea of like going about this project in like more of a open-minded way.
No, 100%. It like based on what you said too, it's like um, I'd say like 90% of the profound lessons I receive in life or obstacles I overcome, they almost always come in a way that's unplanned, that I couldn't have really predicted. So a way you want to like control everything and try to direct your life the way you want it to go. And I think every once in a while someone hits the lottery and that works, and it works to a certain extent, but um, it's really more the way you adjust and soak up the stuff that's almost not planned. Um, I think that ends up leading to more magic. And it's the same thing when you're improvising, when you're in a room with people. It's like Billy and John said during the session too. They're like, well, we could, you know, play all, pre-written music, but what happens if there's something that's supposed to happen here that's like never happened before? That's just magic that'll never happen again, gets missed because we tried too hard to make something happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's that's kind of like the spirit of where they're coming from, which also comes from like a lot of jazz masters, you know.
That I love that because like when I listen to it, I listen to it before I read anything because I sometimes just like to get my own perspective before I like read what someone else's like what they thought of it. And so I thought automatically I was like, this is very jazzy. This is very groovy. Like it reminds me of being in a pub because there's like I'm from Austin, Texas. So there's like a lot of underground pubs you can go to where it's like that. And I was like, this is so
Mm-hmm.
fitting for like this type of environment. And I love the fact that you're
Mm-hmm.
like, we stayed open-minded to like what was to come because even outside of jazz, like in hip hop and rap, like they'll do that too, like the freestyling. Like, let's just go in and see like what comes at the top of our head and go for that. And I like something in my life is like I had to learn how to like stop being so controlling. I read this book called The Law of Detachment. And that just like I felt like once I let go of stuff, my anxiety eased off and like stuff just naturally started coming to me. And I think it was because like I wasn't totally just searching all the time. And it's like a push and pull dynamic. And whenever you're like in a recessive type position, things come to you. So I think that's cool that y'all did that. And I was also like, because it's cool that you worked with someone that you like looked up to or like were inspired by. So how did it feel
Mm-hmm.
to like have that moment of like I'm working with someone that I was listening to
Mm.
music one day, you know?
Well, I mean, it's happened to me, a number of times in my life where I've been fortunate to work with people that I looked up to or wanted to be around. And also, when I was in college, I studied jazz in New York,
Woo.
and I got to kind of like study with all the legendary jazz masters living. And a lot of my classmates were really incredible as well. Like, do you know Robert Glasper?
No, but I'll look it up.
Yeah, yeah, look it up. Yeah, like I mean, there's just a bunch of classmates that are now kind of doing really well. But I there's sort of like a um, just it's like part of the culture of jazz, I think, to kind of pass down information, and at some point, the information can't really be passed down via like just recordings or just books, but there's a certain being in the room with somebody, you know, that
Mhm.
has to happen. And when you're in the room, you really want to get rid of your ego and just be present and allow whatever's there to just kind of happen. And, um, you certainly don't want to think too much. You really want to get your heart and your soul more involved, you know? And if you can do that, then you can really absorb a lot more. But as far as the feeling of it, it's just a feeling of like, um, this actually makes sense. Like this actually fits. Um, this feels right, you know?
Mhm.
And it's really nice to have that feeling.
Nice. It's cool because like I never even thought of it in that way because like I'll watch shows, for example, where chefs do that with the people that they're teaching how to cook or like to run their restaurants or just in various fields, but I never really thought in terms of music that, of course, like it's that same layering aspect of like we need to help build the next class of people and like bring those traditions down. So that's really cool.
I mean, I think there's always like different cycles, um, and different people are at different places in the cycle, and um, but um, but yeah, I think it's important to give back, and that's partly also why I've invested in building a music school over the past 10 years as well. Um, and knowing that that's part of the legacy that I'm creating and moving towards is holistically all about receiving and giving both at the same time.
You should tell me more about the music school.
Music school is based in Seattle, where I grew up. Um, Actually didn't plan on coming back here from New York, but I kind of was following like a dear friend of mine, hoping that we'd start a group, but kind of ended up here. Um, and It's a beautiful place to grow up, and uh, and the music school kind of happened around me. Um, I really wanted to, be in a rock band or be touring as a jazz artist and making recordings, but the era that I was kind of growing up through wasn't the same as when I was young. When I was younger, the industry's changed a lot, so you kind of have to adapt. And teaching music and education was just a beautiful way to direct my energy to something that felt um, passionate about. And at the same time, I knew in the back of my mind when I started the business about 15 years ago that if I did it for 10 years, um, I would be able to get the business in a place where there were, 10 to 15 uh, teachers working there and a certain amount of students. And I could kind of shift my energy on back to performing and recording.
Nice. So it's like you have a great, I
And
feel
that all has
like
come to
artists.
fruition.
Well, I just love the fact that you have like a business mind to you and you have an artistic mind. I feel like when I meet artists specifically like that have been in New York or from New York, they are really good at that. Like it's not even just the musicians, but
Mm.
designers, they're really good at that. They're really good at balancing the creative side of things,
Um,
like
yeah,
structure.
yeah, I want to speak to that because a lot of people I notice in this city and outside of New York spend a lot of energy. Um, mm, I don't know how to say this in a nice way, but having like negative thoughts about stuff.
Mhm.
And if you're like too pushy, then they kind of want to push you out because they don't understand it. They're like, why are you being so intense? Whereas people who go to New York are there to be intense about what they care about. And so it's just a big pool of people that are really intense about what they want to do. And so it's a little bit more normalized. Whereas other places it could be taken the wrong way, where you're just like, no, I'm just really passionate about this and I really care about this a lot, might come across to people in different ways outside the city.
I agree. Cause like in Austin, I had so many things that, and they also, I would get judged. I felt like for saying, I want to do this. I also want to do that. I want to be like, I had just a wide variety of things I wanted to do. And people would like put these limited beliefs on me of like, that's stick to one thing, see what happens, and then build off of that. And it's like, no, why can't I do all of it? And then when I was able to move to New York for like 8 months, I just felt like accepted in my intensity because people they even supported it in a different way. I felt like people were like, this is what you want to do. I'll connect you with someone that likes doing that as well. Like I feel like the support system is there to have that intensity, which I don't even think it's intensity. I think it's just passion. And if you know you can achieve something, like why not go for it? And some people I feel like have those limited beliefs still in their mind of like, you're just being like extra, and I just don't believe in that at all. I feel once I went there and met so many people I felt like me, I realized like I am normal. I just have to like find people on my same level.
Hmm.
And so it's really
Yeah.
cool that you did that.
Um, yeah. Just kind of looks cool, but it's okay. Anyway, yeah.
I'm just excited to know more about like,
There's a there's like a joke. It's like people on the West Coast are really, really nice when you meet them,
mhm,
and they have a really good like glow and shine. Um, and they say a lot of really nice things about how they want to help and be involved, which you don't really get on the East Coast quite as much in a way. But in the East Coast, people are still like on the West Coast. People are like really nice on the surface, but then deep down they can be a little bit more cold, I guess. It's a joke about it, it's not. I'm not making it up. But on the East Coast, people are like mean on the surface, but then deep down they're like really well intentioned. So there's like a joke about on the West Coast, somebody's has a flat tire, and then people drive by and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry that you have a flat tire. I had a flat tire last week. Flat tires are terrible. Um, there's a store around the corner, and in the morning you can go here." And then you're like, "Yeah, but can you help me change it, or can you give me a ride?" And they're like, "Oh no, I got to be somewhere." Whereas on the East Coast, sometimes like I guess the cliche is that someone will be like, "Yo, what the fuck? What are you doing on the side of the road? You idiot! What do you like? How come you don't have a spare tire or whatever?" And they'll kind of like knock you, but then at the same time they'll get out the car and like be like, "Get the fuck out of the way. Let me change this for you. Now get home safe. So um, anyway,
that's literally what it is. And like my mom talked to me about this because there's a difference between being nice and kind. Like, so for example, my mom isn't exactly like nice, but she's kind. She's not going to be sugarcoat anything, but it's there to help you. Like that's what I like about the East Coast. I'm at least get some blunt feedback, which is to me going to help me way faster than someone smiling in my face and then afterwards like saying someone should tell her this. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy that straightforwardness of people because that is just the best way to improve. And I think that's also why New York is the way it is. Like they're all about self-improvement and just like going, and it's not like this fake surface levelness of things. I never liked that. I've never liked that about anything. And even in Austin, Texas, I come from like an area where we have this southern hospitality, but it's like fake, you know what I mean? And even people from my friends outside of the country, when they visit, they'll be like, why is everyone so fake? And I'm like, it's just like ingrained to just be like that in a way. And so whenever I felt like in college, for example, if I gave feedback to people during a mentorship type thing, and I felt like people would think I was rude, but to me, I didn't think I was rude. I thought I was helping and being straightforward. But I think I guess the delivery might not be as catering to someone that's more sensitive. So it's like I have to learn how, when it's certain people, to like deliver what I'm saying, I guess, in a more friendly way, but it's just not really me. So it's just like being open to like the different ways people do things. But like I'm glad that I think it's a universal known fact that like the West and East Coast are like that.
yeah. I mean, there's always like exceptions. It's just kind of the
Of
cliche, but
course, of course. But like overall, I'm just saying from my outer small perspective of things, like I could totally see that. And
mm,
it definitely even reflects like when traveling and stuff. So whenever I was in New York and I'm moving by myself and like trying to figure things out, I felt like people were so nice to me. Like there wasn't any like meanness toward things. When I was trying to figure out public transportation, because we don't really have it in the South, like they would let me ride for free because they were like, what are you doing? Like you're supposed to get the like on the bus, they would just give me free rides because I was like, I didn't know I was supposed to bring this or like, so like, I don't know. I learned so quickly though through that. And so I just appreciate like environments like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So with your school and then
Mhm.
working also on music at the same time, like how are you able to like balance out everything? What are you doing to make sure that you can keep track of all?
Um, uh, I think there's two sides to it. One is the school has been going for many, many years now, and there's a lot that you learn when you do something for many years. When you do something for a decade, you learn about how to put better systems in place and how to react to um, all kinds of different situations. And a lot of what seems like it would take a lot of energy takes less energy over time. And you learn to delegate and to find people that you can trust to work with. And so now I'm in a place where, I mean, for a while also, I have to admit, I wasn't releasing or sharing music for a number of reasons. But one of them was for me to finish a song, for example, will cost just the recording costs thousands of dollars. And to mix a song, um, I need to put like 10 hours at least to get it right. And I got to pay people for that. And or I could do it myself, but it'll take like 5 times as long because I'll be really in the weeds. Like it's like a painter focusing on just the petal when there's like a bush of flowers, or like a whole yard, a scene of a backyard, and they're just um, so I wouldn't really want to release anything because why would I spend all this money and time releasing something that only like 30 or 40 or 100 people are going to hear? And I felt that my art, um, the purpose of it was to resonate with people. So for a long time, I didn't put the work in, but something clicked a couple of years ago, and all the work that I put into the school and all the things that I wanted to accomplish, I realized on a different level uh, how to connect to like kind of the flow of things. And it's a combination of letting go and also um, moving things along. I guess it's kind of like a child, like maybe my life is like a child or the art or the process. And if you yell at a child to do certain things a certain way, that child might um, rebel or like act out or purposely not do it, or maybe it just takes them a long time because they don't understand why. Um, but if you kind of gently explain things to them, like, "Hey, we don't do that," you know what I mean? And when this happens, this is how we behave, and this is how to act, and you do it in a gentle way. Eventually, that child, becomes a fully functioning adult, and hopefully a good person.
True.
And I guess it's sort of like that with the art. And so with the school and all the music I'm making and all the things I want to do, um, I'm just trying to treat it that way.
Makes sense. It's sort of like what you said with the business of like at first you had to do certain things and then it developed to where it could sort of self-sustain itself in a way. And I thought I can
Mm-hmm.
see how that correlates within the art as well. And then do you think you came into thinking when y'all were going to record, you came in with the planned ideas, do you think it sort of stemmed from, oh, sorry. Do you think it sort of stemmed from the fact that you're were using are used to having to plan within your business and everything like
Mm.
that, and then you had to change your mind to like, no, this is art again?
I think the 20 song thing, I do that when I record. I think it's like a little bit more like a deadline kind of thing. Like if you know that the playoffs are coming and you're an athlete, you're gonna like you might spend more time watching film and working on your weak points in your game, you know. And even though in the long run, it's only gonna make a small difference, but you know that the playoffs are coming or whatever. It's kind of
Mhm.
like that with the recording for me. And so with the recording a week or two away, I mean, like I guess I could write 20 songs any week that I want to. Writing music is something that I've never had much of a huge issue with. I can pretty much sit down and kind of tap in and decide what I want to write about, and something will come out, and it's usually ends up being something cool.
Yeah.
But this is just like I had a date, and I kind of like both wanted to show them that I was serious about it. Like I didn't want to just show up and um, you know, careless.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show them that I was serious, and then also for me, in a perfect world, all the way back the last 20 years or 15 years, um, if I would have had a recording session coming up every month, I would have wrote 20 songs a month and just done that for my job. But um, that's not realistic.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I enjoyed this conversation. It went by so fast. And
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you opening up to me about like your creative process in what you
Mm-hmm.
do besides even the music. And I definitely would love to like in the future do this again.